So in this next lesson, now we're going to get into refining and allocating the system functions to the system actors. In this lesson, we introduce a new capability that we're going to basically execute. That new capability now is going to do refining the system functions. This allows you to basically make more detailed system functions if you wish to, or you can just allocate the ones that were transitioned over. In this case, we're just going to keep it real simple, and we're just going to allocate the functions that were brought over. But I will show how you can. I'll do this refinement and add more functions if you wish. So to do this, the steps we're going to take, basically we're going to clone the diagram, and we're going to clone the diagram SAB trail power, create a new diagram for it for the operator. We're going to insert the new operator entities, we're going to insert the allocated functions, and we're going to insert the functions into the new system functions into the diagram. So here we are, we got the trail power. So now I'm going to basically do the clone operation for it, and I'm going to rename this one, and you can use the F2 key in many cases to do the rename, so you can do that. I'm going to do the SAB trail power. I'm going to call it operator. So I'm going to add the new operator functions. I'm going to bring that, I'm going to open that up. Now you can see here this was one that had all the different functional chains exposed. So I'm going to basically add this new one for this new operator, and we'll clean it up a little bit in the next phase when we add the functional chains into it. But what we're going to do is I'm just going to introduce the new operator object. So I'm going to bring that actor over, and there's the operator, just like we saw in the previous diagram. It's brought over from operational analysis. And I'm going to move some things around here. We'll put these a little bit over to the side, and we're going to put it down on the bottom for now. So we're going to put the operator right here, and we're going to make the diagram a little bigger for the system. The center part is the actual system. It represents what it's going to do. I've seen that before. Now I'm going to allocate the functions. Now the functions that go to the operator have already been allocated. There they are. So we got those, and we can arrange those on here nicely. You can stretch them out a little bit, make them look good. And then there's the new functions that were added, and those also been transitioned over. So I can bring those over. Notice that they're not showing up in here. So then what I'm going to use this manage function allocation. There they are. So I'm going to basically say these functions are now going to the system. So I've added them to the system, and there they are. And the links are already made because that came across from the operational analysis. So I've saved myself that work from it before. I can use a command here called layout ports. And notice it changed the ports around and made them a little neater for me. And I just did that step. So this now has the operator, and it shows it's going to receive location and receive status. You'll notice now that I do have some information here about where I realized that operation from. There's the receive status. It's showing it there. Now, I mentioned that you could go and enhance these functions. You can do that by basically going here and saying new system function breakdown or system function data flow. And if I do the data flow view, it actually opens up a diagram for editing more details. If I do a quick little change here, this was called send status. I can set the contextual element to be send status. That. And so the contextual element is send status, and I'm going to do a quick little refresh here, and notice all of a sudden now I've got send status, receive status. So I can actually go and start adding new sub-functions inside of this if I wanted to. So I have the send status here, and we will do this for later sections, but that gives an idea of how you could actually add more functionality and a little more detail of functionalities to the diagram. And that diagram object, you can do that a couple different ways. You can go over here and add system functions as lower objects to that, or you can actually do the create from the system functions view over here. Also during this phase, though, we're in system analysis phase, we also want to do some more refining. So one of the things that you also might want to go through the process of refining on the particular system that you're working on is things to do with details about how the system will perform. Let's bring that into kind of view here. So let me switch this over and I can display what I mean by that refinement that goes on. So for instance, we might want to add a little more detail to the model. So this is what we have currently, but we may want to add a constraint that the operator may have many trail power systems they wish to monitor. They want to specify the power requirements of the USB beta device, or they might want to specify the number of devices and expected connection time, just to give them more details so that the person who's actually going to go and design pick the components and design a solution has something to kind of work with and constrain the design and the architecture of that design. So we can do that with the model also, so we can add that type of capabilities to it. So one of the things we can do is we can add a constraint object. So here's a constraint, and I'm going to constrain the object in this way. I'm going to basically do a link between the system here, and I'll basically say here that operator let's say 1 to 100 trail power. So that's one thing you could also add as a kind of a constraint on the system. Another thing you might want to do is add some values to it. So in this case here we have this flow for energy that's going to go between the two. We can navigate to that information, and in this case I'm going to expose this link, and I'm going to add a little bit of basically a property value on it. So I'm going to add to that value here, energy. I'm going to add an element. There's some that are already defined. I'm going to add basically a float property value to it. I'm just going to take that property value now and drag it over here, and I'm going to say for that value, I'm going to identify it. I'm going to say it's USB, so we kind of know that it's 5 volts. I'm going to say current supply. And then I'll say, let's say minimum. And minimum, and I'm going to say amps. And I'm going to say that the minimum value that we want is 1.0 amps. So we want to have that type of capability for it. So I'm basically now giving some more details about what the solution is going to look like for it. Another one I may have number of devices and expected time. So let's say we could put over here a constraint on that. I'm going to put this right on the function. Expectation is 2 devices. Let me see. Expectation is let's say 3 devices could be charged into, let's say, 25% in an 8-hour period. That would be one idea. I mean, maybe you want it to be maybe it should be 100%. But this idea is just to kind of give an idea of that. Maybe it's on a trail, or we could also add a constraint like this. It could be 2 devices to 100% in 8 hours, in a 24-hour period. Okay, looking at those two numbers, maybe, well, maybe we'll change this to 4. It kind of balances out. Again, it gives us some idea of what we want for that function of charging the device. And that's now captured graphically, and we can use it for communication purposes. Okay, that's it for this part. Thank you.